Part 45. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 441. Makino Hiraki walked out of Kazuo Kazaguri's house, the anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. Asshole, although he cursed out loud, he still deliberately suppressed his voice. He knew how his first two predecessors died. The deaths of the first two predecessors were all related to the legendary Li Cheng. He felt that the president's attitude towards Li Cheng was a bit abnormal, as if, he seemed a bit afraid. Coupled with the fact that the Yamaguchi Gumi's influence overseas has suffered successive setbacks in recent years, he realized that the president who once led the Yamaguchi Gumi to the world was old. In order for the Yamaguchi Gumi to reach the top again, heavy medicine must be taken, and the Yamaguchi Gumi's strategy for other organizations also needs to change. President, since you don't want to start a war, there is nothing you can do about it. I have no choice but to force you to start a war. Makino Hiraki smiled sadly. He felt that now was the best time to make changes to the Yamaguchi group, just in time to muddy the waters so that he could implement his plan. After all, the president is old, and young people like him are needed to take over the leadership of the organization. Makino Hiraki looked back at the Cao Miao Manor in the dusk, sneered, and got into his own car. The Continental Hotel in Tokyo is unlike other places, it is located on Tokyo's Akashi Street. In the early morning, Mingzi Road was not so busy. There were only twos and threes of drunkards shouting at each other. The street that had just rained was so quiet that you could even hear the sound of lovers kissing on the street. Boom! The sound of heavy motorcycles blasting down the street rang out, waking up several pairs of wild mandarin ducks in the alley. Asshole, it's so late, these hateful speedsters are all singles for 10,000 years, the disturbed male mandarin duck muttered in a low voice. Go, keep your voice down, the female is obviously more sensible and knows that she cannot afford to offend these speedsters. Sakura, the concierge of the Continental Hotel, frowned when she heard the noise outside. Very few people dared to attack the street in front of the Continental Hotel. Kenichi, go and see what's going on. Sakura no Harutoki instructed the doorman to go outside and take a look. The doorman Jian nodded, opened the glass door and planned to walk out. Clang! Before he could even walk out the door, he was startled by the Molotov cocktail thrown by the motorcyclist. A half-meter high fire instantly ignited at the entrance of the Continental Hotel, and the doorman Kenichi shouted and ran to the fire extinguisher. Bang bang! Gunshots rang out outside the hotel, and the glass door was instantly shattered. Get down! Haruto Sakura immediately got down and shouted. At this time, people in the Continental Hotel also reacted and immediately took out their guns and shot outside. The strange thing is that the people outside seemed to deliberately clear the magazines and did not continue the attack. The sound of heavy motorcycles gradually faded away. At this time, Sakura straightened up, her chest heaving with anger. She had never received such a provocation since the Tokyo Continental Hotel was built. She took out her mobile phone from the drawer and dialed the number of the hotel manager. Shuaki Amasawa is the manager of the Tokyo Continental Hotel. As one of the heads of the High Tables affiliated organizations, he is very powerful in the Tokyo area. His subordinates not only have a group of killers inside the Continental Hotel, but also indirectly control the Pingjiang killers. It's a pity that the Pingjiang killer base was razed to the ground half a year ago. Hello, Amasawa. Shuaki, who was still sleeping, was awakened by the rapid ringing of the phone. Mr. Amasawa, the Tokyo Continental Hotel has been attacked. A sweet voice came from the phone, and he realized it was the concierge Sakura no Harutoki. Huh? What did you say? Amasawa. Shuaki frowned and straightened up, pushing away the white arm that had been resting on his chest. Mr. Amasawa, our Continental Hotel was attacked by unknown persons. Haru Sakura no repeated eagerly. Amasawa. Shuaki rubbed his face vigorously to wake himself up, Wait, I'll go back soon. There was uncontrollable anger in his tone. Honey, where are you going? The woman on the bed sat up when she heard the voice, not caring about her beauty in front of the man. Amazawa Shuaki put on his pants, glanced at the woman, took out a wad of US dollars from his wallet and threw it on the bedside table, saying coldly, "You must leave before 7 o'clock in the morning." After saying that, he walked out of the door without even looking at the woman. There was only a woman sitting on the bed in a daze. Asshole, that's not what you said yesterday. More than 10 minutes later, Amazawa Zayuyi stood at the door of the Continental Hotel with a livid face. The walls outside the Continental Hotel had been burned black by the flames. Shuaki Amazawa felt that half of the black wall was like a slap on his face, making him feel pain. Who? Who is it? The roar echoed in the empty streets. Yang Nao-kun's face turned a little pale, and she looked like she was gritting her teeth. It was obvious that she had lost her usual sweetness. I haven't found any valid information yet, but... Hearing Sakura no Haru's hesitation, Amazawa Shuaki glared at her, "But what?" Sakura no Haru Toki sighed, "We received a guest last night, and that guest was being hunted. The hunter was none other than the Aoki Gumi Rampage Angel." Aoki. Amazawa Shuaki yelled half of it, "Huh? Aoki group." Sakura no Harushi looked at him and nodded affirmatively. Amazawa Shuaki felt a little embarrassed when Sakura no Haruto was watching him. After all, he yelled harsh words halfway through, only to realize that he couldn't beat the opponent. Last time, the Aoki group almost wiped out the Pingjang assassins. The powerful firepower they showed made him a little scared. Ahem, I will definitely report this matter to the upper level of the high table and strongly condemn the Aoki group, Amazawa Hidekazu said righteously. Sakura no Haru Toki. Amazawa Hidekazu also did what he said and reported the matter directly to the high table, and the high table directly reported it to the Yamaguchi group's Kazuo Kusakari. Kazuo Kusakari, who was awakened in his sleep, put down the phone in his hand. He didn't expect that the Continental Hotel was attacked. The suspect is the Aoki group. After all, the Aoki group killed someone at the door of the Continental Hotel last night, and it seems that another person escaped into the Continental Hotel. But he always felt that something was wrong with this matter, as if, it seemed a little too deliberate. So he directly called Vice President Makino Hiraki. "Makino, what do you think of this matter?" Kazuo Kusakari asked with a frown. As a member of the high table in charge of East Asian affairs, he must take due responsibility for this matter. A hint of joy flashed in Makino's eyes. "This is most likely done by the Aoki group." "Are you so sure?" Kusakari Kazuo shook his head gently, he still remained skeptical. "This matter is obviously inconsistent with the Aoki group's style of doing things." President. Seeing that Kusakari Kazuo still didn't believe it, Makino was a little anxious. "Then you go and investigate carefully, and then report to me," Kusakari Kazuo interrupted Makino. "Yes," Makino bowed, but there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Early in the morning, Aoki Fang, the Aoki group's base. "Kenji, did you send people to attack the Continental Hotel yesterday?" Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 442. No. What happened? The Continental Hotel was attacked, Yamamoto Kenji asked curiously. "I came back yesterday and had a drink with Aja, and then went to bed directly. I am still a little drunk now. Well, I didn't expect that someone deliberately framed us." Aja touched his chin. This matter was too deliberate. The Rage Angel just killed people in the Continental Hotel, and someone attacked the Continental Hotel. This is a bit too coincidental. Aja, you should contact your brother. I don't think this matter is that simple. Yamamoto Kenji thought for a moment and said carefully. He had something else in his mind. This matter is very likely to involve other organizations, and there is a high probability that it is the Yamaguchi group. Aja nodded and directly dialed the phone number of his brother Li Cheng. At this time, Li Cheng was having breakfast with Hong Sheng. After bidding for the license, Alex and Gianna did not stay long and flew back to Gotham directly. Li Cheng simply returned to Hong Kong to accompany Hong Sheng more. Ding-ling-ling. The phone rang. Gang Sheng took a look, stood up quickly, took the phone from the sofa and handed it to Li Cheng. Li Cheng swallowed the last bite of pineapple bun, the caller ID showed the note, and answered the call. Hello? Aja. Brother, I messed up. I didn't kill old Shear and let him escape to the Tokyo Continental Hotel, Aja said with some shame. He felt that he was mainly responsible for this matter, and it was because of his negligence that he let old Shear escape. Li Cheng smiled softly. What's the matter? If you didn't kill him, just keep killing him. Li Cheng is usually very tolerant of his younger brother's small mistakes. But brother, yesterday Aja gave Li Cheng a detailed report on the attack on the Tokyo Continental Hotel in the early morning, and added some personal speculations of himself and Kenji. Li Cheng put down the porridge in his hand, and his fingers kept tapping on the glass table. Well, I know about this. You continue. Before he finished speaking, Aja roared in his hand, be careful. Get down. Then there was a burst of gunfire. The phone was hung up suddenly. Li Cheng's face suddenly changed, and he stood up suddenly, looking at the phone that was making a beep-beep sound. Brother Cheng, what's wrong? Gang Sheng asked worriedly when he saw Li Cheng's action. Li Cheng smiled, don't worry, it's okay. It seems that I can't accompany you again. Something happened in Zirizi, and I have to deal with it. After that, Li Cheng began to contact Crow and Zhang Dongxiu, asking them to prepare to go to Zirizi, Tokyo. At this time, Aja on the other side looked at the broken phone, holding a gun in his hand and shooting outside. Aja, the opposite side is a dead soldier, Yamamoto shouted loudly while firing back. Aja squinted his eyes and looked at the masked enemy outside, holding a gun and constantly attacking. The enemy on the opposite side charged fearlessly, without any intention of dodging bullets. There were even a few that had been beaten into a hornet's nest, but the others didn't care at all. It was obvious that they came with the determination to die. Even so, the battle did not last long. After all, it was in Qingmufang. The support of the Qingmu group was quick, and the dead soldiers were directly annihilated by the two-sided attack. Aja walked out of the door with red eyes and heavy breathing, looking at the dead soldiers lying on the ground. Since the construction of Qingmufang, no one has dared to go wild here, but I didn't expect to be attacked. Aja squatted down and lifted the mask of the dead soldier to reveal a face full of knife marks, which was obviously disfigured long ago. Aja was unwilling. Take off his clothes. Yes, Brother G. The younger brother directly stripped the clothes of the corpse, only to see that the corpse's arm was wrapped in bandages. When the bandages were opened, it was found that a layer of skin had been cut off. Good, good, no leaks, Aja roared, and the other party was really cruel, directly cutting off the organization's logo. He estimated that the other dead soldiers were the same. Aja, several of our brothers are gone, Yamamoto Kenji said in a low voice. Aja angrily fired at the corpse on the ground. Bang, bang, bang. After venting his anger, Aja remembered that he should report to his elder brother that he was safe. Li Cheng received Aja's call and was temporarily relieved. Aja, take care of the brother's funeral. We will rush over now, Li Cheng said in a deep voice. This time, the Aoki group was attacked. Li Cheng felt that something was different. Originally, he just wanted to kill Lao Xiaer, but it involved other unknown forces. The most important thing is that it is still unclear which force it is. He decided to go there in person to figure out the matter. If it really involves the Yamaguchi group, he must be prepared for war. Also, don't pick me up. Don't let others know that I'm going to live this time, Li Qing continued. Okay, elder brother, Aja nodded and said softly. In a house 5 kilometers away from Aoki Fang, a masked man knelt in front of Makino. Master Makino, the mission failed. Makino Hiraki looked up at the masked man and blew on the steaming teacup in his hand. Number 1, do you have any objection to my decision? More than a dozen assassins died this time, and number 1 felt a little sad. You know, these assassins are difficult to train, and they have been trained through years of brainwashing. Don't dare. Don't dare? So you have complaints? Makino stared at number 1. Number 1 lowered his head and said nothing. Makino waved his hand. You go. This matter is decided by the president, I hope you can understand. Number 1's eyes flickered, bowed his head and nodded respectfully. When number 1 walked away, a Western-looking man with meticulous hair and an old-fashioned 730 hairstyle came out from the inner room. Makino Hiraki stood up respectfully and bowed flatteringly, Sir. The man whom Makino called Sir sat cross-legged at the table unceremoniously, and uttered a sound from his nose. Well, Makino did a good job on this matter. Only by causing a dispute between the Yamaguchi Gumi and the Aoki Gumi can we have an opportunity. To deal with that person, the Continental Hotel in Tokyo and the Yamaguchi Gumi are a breakthrough point. Don't worry, I will nominate you to become the chairman of the Yamaguchi Gumi at that time. Makino Hiraki was delighted. Yes, it is my honor to serve you, sir. Sir looked at Makino Hiraki, who bowed 90 degrees, smiled proudly, and thought to himself, what a good dog. With Makino's farewell, Mr. walked out of the house. After receiving the news that the Aoki group was attacked, Kazuo Kusakari didn't know why he always felt uneasy. The attack on the Tokyo Continental Hotel and then the attack on the Aoki group were too coincidental. Now he just hoped that Li Qing would not take his anger out on the Yamaguchi group because of this incident. He had a feeling that Tokyo was like a powder keg now, and it would explode with just a little spark. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 443. 3 passengers appeared at Tokyo Airport. The leader had a handsome face, but his eyes were indescribably attractive. The 2 people following him were also very eye-catching. One of them had explosive muscles, and his arms were thicker than the average person's thighs. The other one has slightly hairy hair and walks with a swaying look, a bit like a street kid. These 3 people are the 3 Li Qing who have just arrived in Tokyo. Wow, it's been a long time since I've been to Tokyo. Even the air is filled with the smell of a hashi. Crow took a deep breath and said with a look of enjoyment. Li Qing. Zhang Dongziu, who was holding large and small bags of luggage, touched his head and asked, who is Dakiao Waju? Does it smell so bad? Li Qing. He decided to ignore the 2 dicks and walk straight towards the taxi not far away. 2 hours later, the taxi stopped at the intersection of King Mufang. At this time, Aja and Yamamoto Kenji, who had been waiting on the roadside for a long time, quickly stood up. Brother, you are here. Long time no see. Are you feeling well? Aja looked at his eldest brother and bowed slightly respectfully. Well, not bad. Let's go in and talk. Li Qing smiled and patted Aja and Yamamoto on the shoulders. Brother Crow, come, I'll get it. Crow looked at Aja and looked him up and down. Aja, you've been here for too long, and your words are getting worse. Aja. Crow's eyes turned and he hugged Aja's neck. Aja, please ask me if Daqiao is free for a long time. Don't worry, Brother Crow, let her squeeze some time even if you don't have time. Aja looked at Crow and smiled like a man. Crow patted Aja happily and said, "Good boy, you have a bright future." Li Qing, who was walking in front, looked at Xianji next to him and asked, "Xianji, how are the brothers who were injured this time?" Kenji Yamamoto showed a little sadness. "Brother, the brothers who died were all former Nuluo Quan, and were responsible for protecting the headquarters of the Aoki group. This time the other party caught us off guard. The few people who died were basically Yamamoto's subordinates, and they had a deep relationship with him." Li Qing nodded and said solemnly, "The funeral arrangements have been made, and the settlement fee will be doubled. I promise you that no matter who it is, I will find him out." He patted Kenji Yamamoto on the back comfortingly. A group of people walked into the headquarters of the Aoki group, and they could still see dense bullet holes on the walls. Li Qing walked to the wall and touched the bullet hole, 5.56 mm caliber bullet. "Well, what's on the other side is an American-made M16 assault rifle," Kenji Yamamoto said softly. Li Qing frowned. "M16. As the largest arms dealer in Southeast Asia, Li Qing has some experience in the popular arms used in various places. In the early days, the weapons commonly used by gangs generally tended to be larger. After all, they were relatively close and easy to transport. Coupled with the cooperative relationship between Li Qing and Daoquan Huazeki Niawu, most of the weapons used in his small life are more Soviet-made. Dongziu, let Tian Yangsheng check who in the circle is shipping during this period." Li Qing said to Zhang Dongziu behind him. In addition to competition, arms dealers also share what they need. In particular, cooperation between large arms dealers is common. After all, sometimes there is a need to exchange goods. Zhang Dongziu nodded, not daring to delay and contact Tian Yangsheng directly. "Kenji, you call Satoru Kane and tell him that I'm here for a little while and want to see him." Li Qing thought for a while and continued. He didn't want to contact the Yamaguchi Gumi at all. In his opinion, as the largest violent group in his childhood, it was abnormal for the Continental Hotel to have no response when being attacked, and the Aoki Gumi to have no response when being attacked. "Okay, big brother." His idea was very clear. He first wanted to find the forces that attacked the Aoki group by investigating the source of the arms. Then he called his hidden ally, Vice President of the Michikawa Society, Satoru Kikuchi, to learn about the situation in Tokyo in recent times. After all, there are some things that Aja, Yamamoto and others cannot touch. Li Qing sat on the sofa and began to relax with his eyes closed, thinking about his next plan. The slight vibration of his phone caught his attention. "Hey, Alex. What's up?" Alex's hearty laughter came from the phone's microphone. "Lee, Jaina, and I are together. If you don't return to Gotham, we will divide the Share family's property." It turns out that Alex and Gianna are sorting out and dividing the Share family's property these days. "Haha, it's okay. If you eat mine, spit it out sooner or later." Li Qing's words made Alex speechless for a moment. "Li, you really don't have a sense of humor. Am I that kind of person?" "Qing, don't worry, I'm watching for you." Jaina grabbed the phone and said with a smile. This time the three parties jointly gained a lot from the Share family. Not to mention the Share family's main business, the gambling industry. Other industries alone make people jealous. That's good. By the way, I have left you a vineyard owned by the Share family. You can go and see it when you have time. "Well, we are neighbors," Gianna said with a smile. "Okay, after I finish my work here, I invite you to go with me." "Thank you for your hard work on the Share family." Li Qing smiled and thanked him. In fact, it is not that easy to annex the Share family's property. It also involves various relationships. This is one of the reasons why Li Qingla and the two joined the team. After all, they are all local snakes, and it is much easier for Li Qing to coordinate some things with the local government. After chatting for a few more words, they agreed to have dinner together after Li Qing returned to Gotham City, and then hung up the phone. Yes, this time we can enter Las Vegas with a clear name after taking over the Shell family's business. Li Qing said to Zhang Dongzhou and others with a smile. Brother, Lord Guan Niawu is here, Yamamoto whispered to Li Qing. Lord Li Qing, I haven't seen you for a long time. Guan Niawu saw Li Qing, took a few quick steps and held Li Qing's right hand with both hands, and his respectful attitude was obvious. Mr. Guan Nei, how are you? Li Qing also smiled and greeted. Good. I have heard about Lord Li Qing's actions in the United States. I admire you. Guan Niawu gave a thumbs up and praised. He didn't expect that Li Qing could actually make a name for himself in Gotham City in the United States, and the New World Hotel he established was spread across major cities in the United States. Li Qing smiled and waved his hand. He knew that the people of Xiaozizi had a blind admiration for the people of the United States. Well, after all, the United States made Xiaozizi familiar with many people. The two sat down and chatted for a long time before Li Qing got to the point. Mr. Guan Nei, is there anything special happening in Tokyo during this period? Li Qing showed a serious expression on his face. The Continental Hotel was attacked, and the Aoki Group was attacked, Guan Nei thought for a while and said. These two things are the biggest events recently, and he also knows that Li Qing must have asked him to come because of the attack on the Aoki Group. Just now, when he walked in from outside, he saw the dense bullet holes on the outer wall. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 444. Ahem, I mean deeper news. Li Qing rolled his eyes in his heart and cursed Guan Wu secretly. Guan Wu frowned, the CPU in his brain was running rapidly, and he remembered something that happened half a year ago. Sir Li Qing, half a year ago, the Yamaguchi Group replaced a new vice president, Makino Hiraki, who is a representative of the young faction. The way of doing things is also mainly violent. During this period, our Dokawa Association has had several conflicts with them. Guan Wu said with gritted teeth. It seems that he has suffered a lot under this Makino Hiraki. Makino Hiraki, Li Qing frowned and glanced at Aja. Brother, the Yamaguchi Group has never had any friction with us, so I didn't report this matter. Aja said embarrassedly. Humph, this Makino Hiraki not only dared not offend your Aoki Group, but also had enemies with other gangs. Even some small organizations that were allies with the Yamaguchi Group in the past have been incorporated by him. Guan Wu said angrily. Originally, Li Qing didn't care much about Hiraki Makino, but what Sekiakai Satoru said made Li Qing quite interested. Oh? Doesn't Kusakari Kazuo care? Li Qing tilted his head and asked in confusion. Care? I think Kusakari Kazuo completely treats Hiraki Makino as a vanguard, letting him run rampant and seek benefits for the Yamaguchi Gumi. Sekiakai Satoru got angry when he mentioned Kazuo Kusakari, and shook his head. Originally, the Yamaguchi Gumi's reputation was rapidly declining due to setbacks overseas, but after Hiraki Makino's rampage in the past 6 months, all the gangs have re-recognized the strength of the Yamaguchi Gumi. Well, this Hiraki Makino is very interesting. Li Qing held his chin with his right hand and murmured. A trace of doubt flashed across Sekiakai Satoru's face, which was just discovered by the keen sense Li Qing. What? Ahem, I went to see a kabuki performance once, and when I went to the toilet, I found that Hiraki Makino was drinking with a foreigner. Kanei Satoru actually went to Kabukiko Fujitsu Street, but he was too embarrassed to explain it clearly. It was not him who found out that Makino was drinking with a foreigner, but his younger brother found out and told him. He didn't care at the time, until Li Qing asked him now. He felt that something was wrong with Hiraki Makino. Huh? Drinking with a foreigner? Isn't it normal? Li Qing repeated it, but it didn't seem to be anything special. The Yamaguchi Gumi's business was all over the world, and drinking with foreigners was a normal thing. Kanei Satoru shook his head. No. Kazuo Kusakari never let Hiraki Makino get involved in overseas affairs. Huh? How did you know? Ahem, I heard it from someone. Kenny Isatoru, who let the cat out of the bag, quickly explained. Li Qing glanced at him with a half-smile, and he knew that Michikawa would definitely have an insider in the Yamaguchi Gumi. Well, this is very strange, a foreigner. Sir Li Qing, that recently our Daoquin Association needs a batch of arms, it's quite urgent, can you arrange it in advance? Guan Niawu asked with a slightly pleading tone. Li Qing's arms are now in great demand, especially in Southeast Asia and East Asia, known for their good quality and low price, and the transportation route is safe and has never been wrong. Other arms dealers are either seized or delayed by wind and rain, anyway, they are never on time. In contrast, Li Qing's arms are delivered regardless of wind and rain, and they are on time at any time, even more punctual than Dongshan Airlines. There is only one thing that makes people feel helpless, that is, they need to be booked in advance. If they really need it urgently, it is indeed too late. It's a small matter. Li Qing asked someone to call Tian Yangsheng on the spot and asked him to coordinate a batch of arms. Guan Niawu was so happy that he immediately patted his chest and said that as long as the Aoki group needed it, Daoquin would do its best to help. Li Qing just smiled. It was enough to just listen to what Guan Niawu said. The little Japanese were not to be trusted. After sending Guan Niawu away, Li Qing looked at the gradually darkening sky and simply went to Kabukiko Fenjio Street to take a look. It was just built when he left last time, and he didn't have time to take a closer look. Li Qing brought Crow and others to the familiar Shinjuku. It had been a long time since they had seen it. Shinjuku was still the same. Except for the change of a few izakaya and yakiniku restaurant signs, there was no change. It was the busiest time of the day. The office animals in suits and leather shoes went to the familiar izakaya in twos and threes. Li Qing and others stood on the side of the road and were very conspicuous, because there were a bunch of people in black suits standing not far from him. They were big guys at a glance. People who lived a small life were born to bully the weak and fear the strong. Seeing this situation, they walked around in circles and did not dare to pass by Li Qing. Brother Qing, Lily, who received Li Qing's call, ran out of the office building and rushed directly into Li Qing's arms. Li Qing didn't tell her about going to Tokyo, nor did he let Aja and Xianzi tell her, just to give Lily a surprise. After all, they hadn't seen each other for a few days, and Li Qing missed her very much. Holding Lily in his arms, Li Qing could clearly feel that Lily had gained a lot of weight, but he was not surprised. After all, among all the women he had, Lily had a bigger frame. Fat, Li Qing laughed at her. To say she was fat was actually compared to Lily's previous weight. In fact, she was only more than 120 pounds now. Hated, how can you say that a girl is fat when you see her? Lily patted Li Qing. Come on, my housekeeper, take me to see our Fenjio Street. Li Qing smiled and joked. Lily circled Li Qing's arms and said generously, let's go, see the world I have conquered for you. Before she finished her words, she started to laugh. Lily took Li Qing to visit the Fenjio Street carefully. Based on Li Qing's original plan, Lily also ingeniously built a two-dimensional area, which was not real people, but one-to-one copies of anime characters, all of which were silicone dolls. The turnover of the two-dimensional area sometimes exceeded that of the normal custom area, and it was more profitable than any widow or time-stopping project. Not bad. Lily was very happy to receive Li Qing's praise. She knew that she was not outstanding among Li Qing's many women, but she still tried her best to let Li Qing see her efforts. Aja and Yamamoto Kenji, who were not far away, were also proud of it. After all, there was competition within the new world. In addition to Crow, Zhang Dongxiu, and Gao Jin, who stayed with their big brother Li Qing all year round, there were new world territories in Tokyo, Java, Zhejiang, Hong Kong, the United States, and Southeast Asia. At the end of each year, when the summary meeting was held, who didn't want to shine? The business in Japan was not bad, but it was not outstanding. This time, they were recognized by their big brother, and they also showed their faces. "Let's go, let's find a place to eat," Li Qing said softly while hugging Lily. Several people found a very famous puffer fish restaurant called Anrakuti in Shinjuku. This restaurant is dedicated to receiving upper-class people, and people without status cannot enter. Not long after, the ordered Japanese food was served, and Li Qing and Lily and others were feasting. "Brother, I just went to the toilet and I seemed to see Hiraki Makino of the Yamaguchi Gumi," Aja said in a low voice. Since Guan Niawu mentioned Hiraki Makino in the afternoon, Aja and Yamamoto immediately sent someone to get a photo of Makino. He actually ran into Hiraki Makino when he went to the toilet just now. He was afraid that he had made a mistake and called Kenji. After confirming it, he hurried to report to Li Qing. "Oh, Hiraki Makino. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Banwanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 445. Li Qing sat cross-legged on the tatami, just swallowing the puffer fish sashimi that Lily had picked up for him. "Hiraki Makino? He alone?" Aja shook his head. "No, he seems to be with other members of the Yamaguchi Gumi." Aja thought about it carefully, and the people around Hiraki Makino looked familiar, and they should also be members of the Yamaguchi Gumi. "Well, arrange for people to go to the room next to them and listen to what they want to do." In Li Qing's opinion, Hiraki Makino is just a small character, and he can't make any big waves, but since he has met him, he should arrange for him, maybe there will be unexpected gains. Aja nodded, signaled with his eyes, and two younger brothers walked out immediately. At this time, two younger brothers of the Yamaguchi Gumi stood outside the Sakura Hall not far away, constantly on guard. The two of them looked at each other and walked directly into the Fuji Hall next door under the guidance of the waiter. Sitting in the Sakura Hall were Hiraki Makino and others, basically representatives of the young faction of the Yamaguchi Gumi from various regions. "I am very happy that you are here. Makino would like to thank you for your support." Makino Hiraki raised a glass of sake and stood up to say. "President Makino is too polite. With your leadership, our Yamaguchi Gumi can return to the top." "Yes, thanks to President Makino for the past 6 months. We in Osaka support President Makino. I hope President Makino will continue to lead us." Faced with a room full of compliments, Makino was also very happy. Now it seems that the young generation of the Yamaguchi Gumi is still firmly on his side. "I won't say more. I will need your support in the future." Makino smiled and glanced around, and drank the wine in the glass. Others also stood up respectfully and drank the wine in the glass. After the opening remarks, a group of people began to toast each other. Soon, everyone was blushing and the atmosphere became lively. "I heard that the Aoki group was attacked yesterday. This is really a gratifying thing." "Who said it wasn't? Now the Aoki group has set up bases in major cities. In name, they are communication points, but in fact, they are slowly squeezing our living space. Well, it was okay before. The Aoki group was generally Chinese. Now more and more young people who live a simple life are joining the Aoki group. It should be said that the treatment of the Aoki group is really good." Somehow, the topic turned to the Aoki group. Perhaps the most sensational thing in recent times is the attack on the Aoki group. It is obvious that these young members of the Yamaguchi group have been unhappy with the Aoki group for a long time. Makino Hiraki's eyes moved and smiled. "Who said it wasn't? I suggested to the president to expel the Aoki group several times, but it was rejected. Alas." Makino shook his head pretending to be regretful. Makino's words directly resonated with others. "If you ask me, the president should not be afraid of the Aoki group. Now we are the biggest gang in Japan. Well, we are legal, and the government will stand on our side. The president's former ambitions are gone. Alas, the president is old. Under Makino's deliberate guidance, the drunken crowd began to complain about Kazuo, thinking that he was too indulgent with the Aoki group. Makino Hiraki looked at one of the young men and nodded slightly. The young man received Makino Hiraki's signal, nodded slightly, pretended to be drunk and said, "If you ask me, President Makino should become the president of our Yamaguchi group." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere at the scene stagnated. Even Makino thought there was an accident and was about to scold the young man. "Yes. Good. I agree." After a short silence, the drunken representatives all expressed their positions. Makino Hiraki was happy, but still pretended to be very serious and scolded the young man. "Tomosi, you've had too much to drink. Don't talk nonsense. The Yamaguchi Gumi is in this situation because of the efforts of Chairman Kusakari. Don't say such things in the future." Tomosi's face straightened, and he stood up and bowed to Makino. "I'm sorry, Chairman Makino, I've had too much to drink." After saying that, he drew the knife from his waist and chopped his little finger, but his arm was immediately held by Makino Hiraki. "Why do you have to do this? Don't do it again next time." Although the performance of the two was exaggerated, no one noticed that they were drunk. They were just moved by Makino Hiraki's tolerance. Makino Hiraki didn't say anything later. He understood the situation he needed to know, and he also knew the views of the lower levels on Kazuo Kusakari. The possibility of his plan succeeding is very high. The two Aoki group members reported what they heard directly to Li Qing, but after all, they were separated by a wall, and some words were too soft to hear clearly. But the general situation has been understood. Li Qing smiled and said, "It seems that this Makino Hiraki is ambitious." From a few words, Li Qing can understand that this Makino has some intention of usurping the throne, but he just said this vaguely under the pretext of drinking. "He, Yamaguchi Gumi is not quiet either," Crow said with a smile while licking sushi in his mouth. "Brother, is this Makino a suspect?" Aja asked softly. Li Qing nodded. "We can't rule out his suspicion. Let people keep a careful eye on him. I always feel that this person is not right. It has been more than 20 years since Kazuo Kusakari became the chairman of the Yamaguchi Gumi in his 30s, and there are countless loyal subordinates to him. Makino Hiraki wants to usurp the throne with these kittens, then he is too whimsical." Besides, Li Qing learned from Guan Neiwu that Kusakari Kazuo was just using Makino Hiraki as a thug, and he didn't let him touch the core industry at all. With Kusakari Kazuo's cunningness, it is impossible for him to be unprepared for Makino Hiraki. "Okay," Big Brother Aja nodded and responded in a low voice. After the group had eaten and drunk enough, they walked out of the restaurant. Li Qing and others walked on the streets of Shinjuku near midnight, and from time to time they could see office workers sitting on the side of the road to sober up. They were dressed in suits and leather shoes, with messy hair and red cheeks. Even if they were drunk, they would not take a taxi home. Because taking a taxi would cost them a month's pocket money. But seeing Li Qing and others sober up instantly, they stood on the side of the road and bowed respectfully, and then walked quickly to the nearest subway station. "I just appreciate the politeness of the daily life." Crow smiled and looked at the drunk office worker who was staggering. Zhang Dongzhou couldn't help but glare at him, and the crow finally reacted, "I forgot, Koreans are like this too, sorry, Shiur." Bang! The crow's nose hit Zhang Dongzhou's strong back. Dog show." "Shut up," Zhang Dongzhou whispered. The crow covered his nose and looked forward curiously, only to see Kusakari Nanako wearing a black and white kimono coming to Li Qing. "Qing Sang, long time no see." Nanako looked at Li Qing with a little fascination. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 446. Li Qing smiled at Nanako in front of him. It seems that the Yamaguchi Gumi has done a good job of intelligence. Lily, who was beside Li Qing, hugged Li Qing's arm tightly and looked at Nanako Kusakari with an indignant look. Last time, it was this woman who came to bother her man, and this time she came again. Qing sang, I know you have misunderstood me, please give me a chance to explain, Nanako Kusakari said humbly. Li Qing raised his index finger and shook it. No, I have no misunderstanding of you, I am just dissatisfied with your father. I regarded him as an ally, but he stabbed me in the back. You will pay the price for this. The cold voice entered Nanako Kusakari's ears, making her shudder. Qing sang, my father will explain this to you in person, Nanako said hurriedly, some things are not what you think. Li Qing waved his hand and looked at Nanako Kusakari seriously. Nanako, I hope that the attack on the Aoki group this time has nothing to do with the Yamaguchi group, otherwise. He didn't say anything, but took Lily and others around Nanako and walked towards the Shinjuku intersection. Nanako Kusakari watched Li Qing and others disappear at the intersection helplessly and sighed softly. Miss, get in the car. This person is not worth it. The female bodyguard opened the car door and whispered in Nanako's ear. The female bodyguard has protected him since he was a child. Seeing that Nanako, who was like her daughter, was wronged, she couldn't help but comfort her. Nanako looked at the female bodyguard with an inexplicable look. The two most helpless things in life are inexplicable loneliness and incurable love. After that, she tiptoed into the car. Nanako didn't know when Li Qing's shadow had been imprinted in her heart, perhaps since that physical contact. She suddenly found that in addition to power, there seemed to be other things in the world that could be pursued. Old Shell had been staying in the Tokyo Continental Hotel for 2 days. During these 2 days, he didn't even dare to look out the window, for fear that someone would shoot him in the back. Until now, he still thinks of the motorcycle rider wearing a helmet that night from time to time, and was even awakened by a nightmare. Except for going to the bar inside the hotel to have fun, there is no entertainment program. After all, he is already an old man and some things are beyond his ability. But he did hear a happy thing today: the Aoki group was attacked. I heard from the killers in the bar that the people who attacked the Aoki group were all dead men. Those who can support dead men are definitely not ordinary organizations. If they are not careful, someone wants to drive the Aoki group out of Tokyo. Old Shell was happy to drink a few more glasses when he heard this, and it was late at night when he woke up. Hello, Nathan Shell, a black shadow sat on the sofa, looking at Old Shell motionlessly. Old Shell was frightened. He didn't know why someone could break into his room in the Continental Hotel. Who are you? How did you get in? The man was hiding in the shadows and wearing a baseball cap. Old Shell couldn't see his face clearly. Me? You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I can keep you alive. The man smiled and repeated, well, alive in the pursuit of the new world. Old Shell was the patriarch of the Shell family after all, and he quickly calmed down. He, sir, why should I believe that you can keep me alive in the pursuit of the new world? Besides, I'm safe now. The man suddenly laughed until he was out of breath. Nathan, you don't want to live in the Continental Hotel forever, do you? Besides, how do you know that the Continental Hotel can protect you? Let me tell you, Li Qing has come to Tokyo in person. Old Shell looked at the man in the baseball cap in astonishment. Li Qing came to Tokyo. An unspeakable sense of fear swept over Old Shell's body. There might be no one else in the Shell family who survived now except him. He also knew that Li Qing would never let him go. He had been racking his brains to think of a solution during this period, but he didn't expect this person to come to his door. He, your only way to survive now is to cooperate with me, otherwise this place is no different from a prison for you, not to mention that your gold coins are not enough for you to live for a lifetime. The man in the peaked cap pointed to the room and said in a deep voice. Old Sher was silent for a while. You can enter my room silently, which means you are not an ordinary person. Tell me about your plan. Old Sher squinted his eyes and tried to see the man's face clearly, but the peaked cap was very cautious and kept his head down. Take out your gold coins and offer a reward. Old Sher opened his eyes wide and looked at the man in horror. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The Continental Hotel will not accept Li Qing's reward. The Continental Hotel in Gotham has tried this, and they are not offering a reward for Li Qing, but for the backbone personnel of the New World. The result is that the Continental Hotel in Gotham has transformed into the New World Hotel in Gotham. If I offer a reward for Li Qing, I'm afraid the manager of the Continental Hotel in Tokyo will kick me out without hesitation. The man in the baseball cap was speechless for a while, and after a long time he stammered, I didn't say to put a bounty on Li Qing. Then who? Old Sher breathed a sigh of relief, as long as it wasn't Li Qing. Kusakari Kazuo. Eh. Ah, Old Sher's face changed continuously within a few seconds like candy in a grocery store. Are you crazy? You want me to put a bounty on the president of the Yamaguchi Gumi in my daily life? Old Syer thought that the other party must be crazy. How could he have such outrageous ideas? If I say that the Aoki Gumi will have a dispute with the Yamaguchi Gumi, your reward will only make the water more confusing. Who will pay attention to you then? Wherever you go. Survive incognito, and the New World will not find you. The peaked cap said in a slightly bewitching tone. Old Sher is not a fool. He knows that the opponent must have his own purpose, but he thinks that the plan mentioned by the peaked hat is very feasible. As long as there is a dispute between the Yamaguchi group and the Aoki group, he will have a chance to escape. Haha, okay, as soon as I receive news that the Aoki group and Yamaguchi group are in conflict, I will immediately issue a reward. Old Sher never lets go of the hawk when he sees the rabbit. The peaked cap nodded, okay, I hope you keep your word. After that, he stood up and walked out. After the cap left, Old Sher pulled back the quilt and immediately stood up to check the entire room, from the door lock to the sofa, carefully checking it. No sign of prying was found. It seems that this person is not simple, Old Sher murmured. Old Sher didn't know whether the cap's plan would succeed, but he knew he had no choice now. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 447. As soon as I entered King Mufang, I saw elderly aunties and uncles sitting in groups of 3 or 4 with stools under the street lights, chatting, and holding large cattail leaves in their hands, fanning themselves. When they saw Li Qing and others coming, they greeted them from a distance, and Li Qing and others smiled back. Li Qing suddenly felt like he was back in China, without any sense of strangeness. Then Li Qing and Lily returned to their residence in King Mufang, a small manor imitating Su Garden. Brother Qing, I arranged some more rockery while you were away. Lily pointed to the rockery at the door. Li Qing smiled and nodded. He saw a lot of changes in the backyard since the last time he left. It seems that Lily should come here often when she is free. Yes, you have worked hard here at Zirizi. Li Qing touched Lily's hair and said. Lily is very concerned about Fengjio Street and has made a lot of profits for the company. Especially the number of times she comes to Zirizi is far less than that of Hong Kong and Macau. Mao Xianmin in South Korea has to go to the United States for work. So Li Qing felt that among these women, Lily owed the most to him. All talk and no action, why don't you come to see me more often? Lily rolled her eyes. Now that there was no one around Li Qing, she was not polite. I'm here now, Li Qing smiled. After all, she was a woman, so she was just venting a little resentment. To solve this kind of thing, Li Qing was familiar with it and directly picked up Lily and walked towards the bedroom. Lily was not shy and hugged Li Qing's neck. "I tell you, if you don't pay enough public grain today, I won't agree. Little girl, if you can still get out of bed tomorrow, I lose." Li Qing was also angry when he heard it. When had he been looked down upon like this? After a night of dancing with fish and dragons, the two of them walked all over the house. Just when Li Qing and Lily were studying which posture was easier to communicate in depth, some impolite guests came to the Kusakari Kazuo manor. Hiraki Makino led a large group of people and quietly surrounded Kusakari manor under the cover of night. According to the gentleman, it was to kill Kazuo Kusakari, but Hiraki Makino didn't want to do it, because Kazuo Kusakari was the spiritual leader of the Yamaguchi Gumi. Once he killed Kazuo Kusakari, the Yamaguchi Gumi would face disintegration, and many veterans or competitors who did not obey him would jump out to oppose him. It would be better to learn from Cao of China, who used the emperor to command the princes and put Kazuo Kusakari under house arrest first. Action. Hiraki Makino looked at the brightly lit Kusakari manor and ordered. His Yamaguchi Gumi members went out one after another. The battle was extremely smooth, and what surprised Hiraki Makino was that he did not encounter any resistance at all, and he took over the Kusakari manor. Makino didn't think much about it, but just thought that Kazuo Kusakari was negligent in prevention. "Makino, what do you want to do?" Kazuo Kusakari looked gloomy, looking at Hiraki Makino, who brought people in. "President, it's okay, I just want to ask you to take a break for a while. After all, you need to rest after so many years of hard work." Makino bowed respectfully as usual. "Huh? Do you want the position of president?" Kazuo Kusakari instantly understood what Makino meant. Such things often happen to other gangs in their daily lives. Facing Kazuo Kusakari's questioning, Hiraki Makino just smiled. "President, you are old. You are becoming less and less decisive in doing things. This way, you can't lead the Yamaguchi Gumi to a higher peak. It's better to save some face for yourself now." Since the face was torn, Makino stood up and didn't hide it, and said what was in his heart directly. "What? Do you think you have the ability to lead the Yamaguchi Gumi to the top?" Kazuo Kusakari looked at Makino with a sneer. "During this period, under my leadership, the Yamaguchi Gumi has gained momentum. You have to admit that I am more capable than you. You may not know that many of your subordinates are already very dissatisfied with you, especially with your attitude towards the Aoki Gumi." Makino didn't care about Kazuo Kusakari's face. Kazuo Kusakari was stunned when he heard this, and then his face changed drastically. "What are you going to do? I tell you, don't provoke the Aoki Gumi." "Sorry, President. I have already provoked it." "Haha, the New World is not invincible. There will always be organizations more powerful than the New World on Earth, and there will always be people more powerful than Li Qing." Makino Hiraki looked at Kazuo Kusakari, who was horrified, and a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. No wonder that gentleman looked down on Kazuo Kusakari, and the older he got, the less courageous he became. He was not interested in communicating with Kazuo Kusakari anymore, and waved his hand directly at his subordinates. The subordinates took Kazuo Kusakari away directly, but he didn't know that Kazuo Kusakari had an undetectable smile on his face. "President Makino, Nanako Kusakari was not found," the subordinate whispered in Makino's ear. "Well, it doesn't matter, just a woman." Makino Hiraki doesn't have the energy to care about a woman now. He wants to directly call the Yamaguchi Gumi's top leaders tomorrow to solve the problem of his acting as president. The next morning, Li Qing opened the door and breathed in the fresh air, feeling very refreshed. "Hee, don't some people want me to stay in bed?" Li Qing looked back and saw Lily limping down from upstairs. "Hee, you're just being stubborn." Although Lily's eyes twitched in pain, she still came to Li Qing stubbornly. She followed Li Qing's example and opened her arms to breathe in the fresh air. Well, I just sprained my ankle. Oh, let's go. Let's go have some breakfast together. Lily was speechless for a moment. Well, bring some for me, I'm going to take a nap. Li Qing looked at her with amusement, and walked out the door without any hesitation. Taking this opportunity, Li Qing walked around King Mufang and took a good look at King Mufang. Then he ordered some fried dough sticks and soy milk at a small stall, and sat on a chair to eat. Unexpectedly, before he finished his breakfast, he saw Zhang Dongxiu running towards him breathlessly. Li Qing realized that he didn't seem to have brought his mobile phone. Dongxiu, what's wrong? Sit down and talk. Big brother, Tian Yangsheng has a message. Zhang Dongxiu handed the information in his hand to Li Qing. Li Qing took the information and began to check it carefully. The information listed in detail the American arms smuggled to Tokyo in recent times. Li Qing pointed at a message. There was something wrong with this paragraph. This batch of American firearms was sent to the Yamaguchi-gumi. But all the weapons of the Yamaguchi-gumi are provided by the New World, and Li Qing couldn't have been unaware of this. Haha, Yamaguchi-gumi. Li Qing had some doubts, and now the Yamaguchi-gumi suddenly bought some American weapons, which made people suspicious. What is this Kusakari Kazuo doing? According to Li Qing's understanding, Kusakari Kazuo would not be so unwise. Because of the matter of the Pingjiang killer, Kusakari Kazuo even talked to Li Qing on the phone. It is impossible for him not to understand the current strength of the New World, and it is impossible for him to fall out with the Aoki group because of the Tokyo Continental Hotel. But the facts are in front of him, which makes him a little puzzled. Ao-san. Li Qing raised his head in astonishment and looked at Kusakari Nanako, who was standing in front of him. She was still wearing the kimono she wore yesterday, but her face was much more haggard. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 448. It turned out that when Nanako returned home yesterday, she happened to catch up with Makino Hiraki attacking Kusakari Manor. The female bodyguard immediately drove around and left. Nanako Kusakari thought about it all night in the car and found that only Li Qing could help him. So he came to King Mufang early in the morning. Just when he saw Zhang Dongxiu on the street, he secretly followed him. Nanako, Li Qing was very confused about Nanako's arrival. He had made it very clear yesterday, but he didn't expect Nanako to come to see him. You have something to do. Qing sang, please save my father. Nanako knelt on the ground without saying a word. Everyone around looked at her in surprise. What's the matter? Stand up and tell me, Li Qing frowned and said softly. He didn't know what happened to Kazuo Kusakari, but he was sure that it should not be a trivial matter, otherwise the eldest lady of the Yamaguchi-gumi would not kneel on the ground. Li Qing's eyes moved, and he suddenly remembered what happened to Hiraki Makino last night. No way. So fast. Nanako stood up with the help of the female bodyguard, looking at Li Qing with tears in her eyes. The Kusakari manor was attacked, and my father's life and death are unknown now. Sure enough. Li Qing's eyes moved, and as he expected, Hiraki Makino began to act. Oh. Nanako, you know very well the dispute between your father and me. There is no reason for me to help him at this time. Li Qing looked at Nanako rationally. He would not intervene in the internal disputes of the Yamaguchi group without sufficient benefits. You. The female bodyguard stepped forward indignantly. Kusakari Nanako hurriedly grabbed the female bodyguard. Qing sang, if I tell you that the attack on the Aoki group was planned by Hiraki Makino, what will you do? Nanako looked straight at Li Qing, waiting for his answer. Li Qing had a blank expression on his face, but he was muttering in his heart, Hiraki Makino? How did you know that Makino Hiraki's men attacked the Aoki group? Li Qing looked at Nanako with an inexplicable expression. Nanako stammered and didn't say anything. Li Qing saw something from Nanako's expression, thought about it carefully, and cursed fiercely, "Damn, old fox." According to Li Qing's inference, Kazuo Kusakari must have noticed something a long time ago, and this time he released his daughter on time, which was a bit too coincidental. Li Qing hooked his finger at Zhang Dongziu, and Zhang Dongzi immediately lowered his head. "Dongziu, let Aja prepare the manpower and send someone to watch the Yamaguchi group. Report to me immediately if there is any movement." Li Qing didn't know what this group of people were going to do for the time being, so he had to send someone to keep an eye on them first. Zhang Dongziu nodded and walked outside. Li Qing glanced at Nanako standing next to him. "Have you eaten yet? How about we eat together?" "Okay, thank you, Qing Sang." Nanako Kusakari bowed slightly to express her gratitude. After that, she sat opposite Li Qing and took the fried dough sticks on the table and started eating without hesitation. Li Qing was stunned. "You don't care about your father's safety at all." Nanako Kusakari swallowed the fried dough sticks in her mouth reluctantly and took the soy milk that Li Qing had drunk to wash her throat. She looked at Li Qing seriously and said word by word in Chinese, "My father said that life and death are determined by fate and wealth is determined by God. He will be fine." Looking at Nanako, who had just a sad face and knelt on the ground begging him to save his father, she has now become a dry eater. Li Qing gave a thumbs up, "So filial. Thank you Qing Sang for the compliment." Li Qing. After breakfast, Li Qing bought some breakfast and started walking towards his own small yard, followed by Nanako in a kimono. "I'm back," Li Qing shouted towards the house. "I just came back. I'm almost starving." Lily had just finished taking a shower and limped out in her bathrobe. But when she saw Nanako next to Li Qing, her face immediately changed color. "Huh? What is she doing here?" Lily looked at Nanako Kusakari with a bad look. If eyes could kill, Nanako would probably be riddled with holes now. "Hey, is this King Sang's home?" So warm, Nanako didn't care about Lily's gaze at all, and looked around at the decorations in the house. Hee, this is my home with Kinga, of course it's warm." Lily raised her head and said proudly. "Qing Sang, I want to buy a house for us too." Nanako looked at Li Qing and said. Lily was directly angered by Nanako's words. "You little devil, get out." What did you say?" "I don't understand Chinese." Nanako Kusakari blinked her innocent big eyes. Li Qing rolled his eyes, threw his breakfast on the table, and ignored the two women. He sat on the sofa and thought about several confusing things. Who is the mysterious man behind Makino Hiraki? Kazuo Kusakari knew Makino Hiraki's plan long ago. Why didn't he take the initiative? Why did Makino Hiraki attack the Aoki group? What benefit would it bring to him? 3 questions went around in Li Qing's mind, but Li Qing had no clue at all, and there were too few effective clues now. Yamaguchi Gumi headquarters, meeting room. "I'm sorry, everyone. I'm calling you here urgently to announce something. President Kusakari unfortunately suffered a stroke and is now being treated in Tokyo Hospital. The Yamaguchi Gumi cannot be without a leader for a day. According to President Kusakari's wishes, I will temporarily take over the position of president." Hiraki Makino stood up and said to the leaders of each group with a smile. The whole meeting room began to talk. Some people looked happy, some looked sad, and some did not react. Makino looked at the young man next to him, and the young man stood up immediately. "Ahem, regarding the matter of Vice President Makino acting as the president, please vote." The voice in the meeting room stagnated. 1, 2, 3. What Makino did not expect was that few people opposed this matter, especially the leader of the Kusakari group who was close to the president. You must know that before Kusakari Kazuo became the president, he was the leader of the Kusakari group. From the name of the Kusakari group, you can know that this is a loyal dog of Kazuo Kusakari. Makino looked at the few votes against the whole audience, and he almost laughed out loud. The joy of being elected as the acting president immediately made him not care about this little thing. After all, he would slowly weaken the strength of the Kusakari group after he came to power, so there was no rush now. Okay, thank you for your trust. I will work wholeheartedly for the organization and make the Yamaguchi Gumi better. After Makino Hiraki finished his speech, there was warm applause in the venue. As for how many of them were genuine, how many were fake, that is unknown. The first thing Makino did after being elected as the acting chairman was to prepare to launch a war against the Aoki Gumi. This decision was also agreed by most people. Only a few groups clearly stated that they could not spare anyone to participate in this matter, such as the Kusakari Gumi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 449. The large-scale gathering of the Yamaguchi Gumi failed to hide from the Aoki Gumi who had been staring at it. Li Qing knew the actions of the Yamaguchi group very well, of course, Nanako also contributed to this. He even knew the specific time of the Yamaguchi group's operation. Of course, Li Qing couldn't miss this opportunity and directly called the key members of the Aoki group. I received news that the Yamaguchi group will attack the major strongholds of our Aoki group tomorrow night. Aja and Kenji will first recruit members of the Aoki group from other provinces. Li Qing flicked the cigarette ashes in his hand. Yes. Brother Aja and Kenji Yamamoto responded at the same time. Hey, there are really some people who are not afraid of death. Brother, I have guessed it a long time ago. It is definitely the Yamaguchi group who attacked us. Crow patted his chest and said confidently. Zhang Dongxiu, who was next to him, didn't like him. Fart, you said yesterday that it was probably the fault of the Tokyo Continental Hotel. Crow's eyes squinted and his mouth tilted, wanting to teach Zhang Dongxiu a lesson. But his attention was diverted by Li Qing's words, so we have to strike first. Our Aoki group has fewer people than the Yamaguchi group, so we can only pull out their teeth first and then fight. Teeth? Everyone asked curiously. Li Qing took out a map of the Tokyo area from the side. This is the Yamaguchi Gumi's arms cache. Looking at the large and small circles drawn with red pen on the map of Tokyo, everyone can clearly know where the Yamaguchi Gumi hides their arms. Brother, this is good. Without their weapons, they are just lambs to be slaughtered. Crow rubbed his hands and said excitedly, Hey, brother, how do you know so clearly? Of course I have my own channels. Li Qing muttered to himself, I got it from the bed, can I tell you? Okay, now let me divide the tasks. Aja, you will be responsible for the central area, the west side of the city will be handed over to Xianji, and Crow will take people to the east area. Li Qing handed over several major districts to key members, and assigned key members to small groups in the communities below the major districts. After receiving the order, several people began to take their own people to make arrangements. Except for the newcomers, everyone else is basically familiar with Crow and Zhang Dongxiu. Some of them had even worked under the two of them before, so there was no sense of unfamiliarity when working together. Crow, who has been in Japan for a long time, is also familiar with Jodo Ward, which is divided into Koto Ward, Tato Ward, Moda Ward, Chuo Ward, Edogawa Ward, etc. Although it's not as good as the central area, it's still a pretty good place, with more middle-class people living there. The Jodo district at night is not as prosperous as the central area, and the more remote Edogawa district is even quieter. In the Edogawa Yamaguchi Gumi stronghold, several Yamaguchi Gumi members were chatting next to a large warehouse. Hey, these leaders are really interesting. They go to the izakaya to drink and let us feed the mosquitoes here. I would say it's redundant. What can happen to the warehouse in the stronghold? It's better to be cautious, there seems to be something big happening tomorrow night. One of them, the most shy one, whispered. Eh? Xiaoquan, have you heard any news? Tell me. Yes, tell me about it. The one named Xiaoquan looked around and said quietly, my brother's neighbor's wife is our leader's mistress. According to her, there will be a big operation tomorrow night, but I don't know what the specific operation will be. TCH, after saying it for a long time, it's the same as not saying anything. Huh? No, why would the leader's mistress tell you such a thing? Others looked at him gossiping, since ancient times, wives have been so lonely. Several people took turns teasing him, but they didn't know that someone from the Aoki group quietly came in while they were chatting. Crow looked at the people chatting and joking in the dark, and felt really unhappy. Mater, there are those little devils and those who are joking, go ahead. Kill them. The boys behind them directly picked up their guns and hit a few people with a shuttle while they were not paying attention. Several people were beaten into a sieve without even making a sound. The crisp sound of AK gunfire filled the entire Yamaguchi-gumi stronghold, and the little Japs in the stronghold also rushed out and kept fighting back. Banana, you bastard, Crow pulled out the ring of the grenade, please eat a big pineapple. The other people followed suit and threw the grenade directly. Gilialo. The grenade rolled directly to the feet of the Yamaguchi-gumi members, hand. Boom, the grenade exploded directly under the feet of a group of people, and shrapnel shot directly into the little devil's body. For a while, the little devils lay on the ground and kept wailing, and some of their lower bodies had been torn off large pieces of flesh. Crow had a cigarette in his mouth, his left hand pressed directly against the muzzle of the AK, and the butt of the gun rested directly on his shoulder. Thud, tud, tug. The bullet was released directly on the little devil's body. The boys behind Crow also rushed out one after another, and the firepower suppressed for a while made it impossible for the opponent to lift their heads. Crow emptied the bullets from the magazine, then leaned against the wall and replaced the magazine with a full magazine. Get a few people and flank them. Upon hearing this, several boys immediately went around to the side and started shooting at the people inside through the windows. There is no need to aim at this distance, and there is no way for people in the small room to escape. There were not many people in this stronghold, about 50 or 60, and a series of sneak attacks made the other side unable to react. Knowing that there was a weapons warehouse next to it, he couldn't run in to get a long gun. In the end, he was crushed by the firepower of Crow and others. The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes, until no one on the opposite side was breathing, and Crow stopped attacking. After having someone open the so-called arsenal, Crow sneered at the dozens of long guns hidden inside. With just these few guns, you still want to fight the Aoki group, you'll fight with your head. Brother Crow, there are several small strongholds like this on the opposite side. Crow glared at him, what are you waiting for? Move these guns away quickly and continue to the next location. The Aoki group continued its actions in various districts. In the early stage, when the Yamaguchi group was caught off guard, they achieved great results. It was not until the last few districts that the Yamaguchi group regrouped its personnel. The Aoki group was not stupid either, and directly gave up the attack on the Yamaguchi group. Anyway, today's goal had been achieved, and the few weapons in the remaining districts would not affect the result. Makino Hiraki realized it later, and when he knew that the Yamaguchi group's arsenal was attacked, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Asshole, shameless, despicable. How could the damn Aoki group know our plan, and most importantly, why did they know our weapons hiding place? Makino smashed all his beloved porcelain and said angrily. The subordinates stood at the door trembling, fearing that Makino would vent his anger on him. President Makino, are we still going to continue with our plan tomorrow? Makino glared at him, call the president. I'll take care of the weapons issue, as for tomorrow's plan, Wait for my news first. Yes, President. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 450. The Aoki Group's sudden attack on the Yamaguchi Group's weapons cache could not be concealed at all. In a short period of time, all large and small societies in Xiali got the news, and they all looked on the sidelines. They all sit on the mountain with their arms folded and watch the fight between tigers and tigers, thinking of picking up some advantages. Although the Yamaguchi Gumi is the most violent group in Xiali, it is obvious that the Aoki Gumi has strong combat effectiveness. The Aoki Gumi team quickly reduced its military strength in major cities and concentrated most of its members in Tokyo, as if they were determined to fight to the death. Even if the Yamaguchi Gumi can win this time, their vitality will be severely damaged. Naturally, violent groups, large and small, will not miss this opportunity. No, Li Qing just received a call from Guan'e Satoru. Your Excellency Li Qing, your actions last night were really satisfying. If you had told me about this earlier, our Daoquin Association would also help you. Guan'e Satoru laughed, looking cheerful. Li Qing sat on the sofa and curled his lips, and said with a smile, haha, our Aoki group can solve this trivial matter by ourselves, why bother bothering the Daoquin Council? There are 3 gangs of heroes. Besides, we, the Dokawa Society and the Yamaguchi Group, also have enmity. In the past 6 months, Makino led people to take over several territories, and Daoquin Hui was also holding his breath. But who is Li Qing, who can't understand that Guan'e Satoru wants a piece of the pie? He directly refused and said, Mr. Sikuchi Satoru should watch the dispute between the Aoki Group and the Yamaguchi Group from a distance. If you are not careful, you will get burned. It will not be good if it affects the relationship between you and me. When Guan'e Satoru heard this, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes and he laughed. Haha, don't get me wrong, Mr. Li Qing, I have no other intentions. If there is really a need, we, Daoquin, will do our best to help. The corner of Li Qing's lips curled up. Don't worry, if there is any need, I will be the first to think of your Daoquin Club. Daoquin Hui has been coveting the title of the #1 violent group in his childhood for a long time, and he will never give up as long as he gets the chance. In the leisure area of Tokyo Continental Hotel, the killers gathered together in 2s and 3s, with the most people playing chess at one table. I saw old Cher sitting on a chair, playing chess with an old killer opposite. Hey Nathan, I'm ready to eat your queen. There were several gold coins placed next to the old killer. It seemed that he had already won several gold coins from Ness. The killers watching the game also knew that this was another chess game that Nathan would lose, and they began to stop paying attention to the chess game and started chatting instead. Hey, I heard that the Aoki Group suddenly launched an attack on the Yamaguchi Group last night, and many people on the Yamaguchi Group died. Huh? Aren't the Aoki Group and the Yamaguchi Group allies? The old killer raised his head and asked curiously. Who says it isn't? But there is indeed something fishy about this matter. I guess it has something to do with the attack on the Aoki Group a few days ago. Perhaps the attack on the Aoki Gumi was directed by the Yamaguchi Gumi. Otherwise, the Aoki Gumi wouldn't have been so angry and even called back members from other cities. It has nothing to do with us, just watch. This matter won't end like this. The killers started talking among themselves. When old Sier heard the news, a look of astonishment flashed across his face. He didn't expect that what the peaked hat said was true. There was actually a conflict between the Aoki Group and the Yamaguchi Group. He secretly clenched his fists. Maybe this time he could really escape under the chaos. I give up. Lao Xie dropped a gold coin, stood up and left. The old killer opposite picked up the gold coin from the table and sighed, Nathan left early today, at least he earned one less gold coin. Old Cher went directly back to his room, opened his suitcase and took a look. There were still a lot of gold coins in it, enough for him to stay for a year and a half. But this is not a solution, sooner or later it will all be spent, so it is better to use this opportunity to escape from death. He gritted his teeth, took out nearly half of the gold coins, and stacked them neatly on the table. He casually picked up the phone in his hand, put on his reading glasses and started dialing the number on the hotel nameplate. The call was answered quickly. "Dear customer, may I help you in any way? I want to issue a reward order." "Okay, please name the name you want to reward." "Yamaguchi Gumi President Kazuo Kusakari." The other party on the phone was stunned for a moment. "Who are you talking about?" Old Shell repeated, "Kazuo Kusakari, the president of the Yamaguchi Gumi." "Sorry, I don't have enough authority." "Please wait." The operator immediately hung up the phone and began to report to the manager Shuaki Amasawa. The operator hurriedly came to Amasawa Shuaki's office, and there was a man whose face he couldn't see clearly sitting inside. She quickly told the story from beginning to end. Amasawa Shuaki frowned. "What are you doing? Didn't you know that President Kizaka is one of the members of the High Table? Why do you still come to report this kind of thing? According to regulations, members of the High Table, as senior executives, are not allowed to be the target of bounties from the Continental Hotel." Shuaki Amasawa was about to scold the operator, but was stopped by a man wearing a peaked cap sitting on the sofa. "Shuaki, wait." Tians glanced at him with a frown, then waved away the operator. "Sir, what's wrong?" Tian's words were respectful. "Promise him and allow a reward for Kazuo Kusagari." "But..." Amasawa Shuaki wanted to say something else. "The Yamaguchi Gumi already has an acting president. Kazuo Kusagari is not the only choice. Soon he will no longer be a member of the High Table." "But..." "I said that bounties are allowed." The man in the baseball cap stood up from the sofa and stared at Amasawa Shuaki. "Okay, okay. I'll arrange it right away." Amasawa Shuaki swallowed his saliva and agreed immediately. Old Shell's bounty was instantly posted on the bounty list, and many killers took the order after a little hesitation. In their eyes, anyone on the bounty list is a person who can be killed. The killers at the Continental Hotel acted quickly, and because of the well-informed inside information, they quickly locked on Kazuo Kusakari's location, Tokyo Hospital. In order to conceal his tracks, Hiroki Makino directly placed Kazuo Kusakari under house arrest in Tokyo Hospital. After all, the reason he gave was that Kazuo Kusakari had a stroke, and it was a bit unreasonable not to be in the hospital. The 12th floor of Tokyo Hospital was brightly lit. The Yamaguchi Gumi booked an entire floor to keep Kazuo Kusakari under house arrest, and even ate, drank, defecated, and urinated in the hospital. However, Kazuo Kusakari was contented, wearing a hospital gown. A small table in a high-end ward was filled with various Japanese dishes. Slurp. Kazuo Kusakari took a sip of wine, picked up the tuna sashimi on the plate, dipped it in mustard and threw it into his mouth. The freshness of mustard mixed with sashimi bloomed in the taste buds and rushed straight to the forehead. Kazuo Kusakari nodded with satisfaction. "Yeah, this kind of life is really good. Now he is under house arrest, and he doesn't have to worry about the organization's affairs for the time being. He just tastes delicious food and watches TV all day. He is in a very relaxed mood." "President." Kazuo Kusakari looked at the younger brother who came in, and it turned out to be from the Kusakari group. "What's the matter?" "Some unidentified people were found downstairs, I'm afraid." Kazuo Kusakari sighed, threw down his chopsticks, and the chopsticks collided with the plate and made a crisp jingle. "Alas, I just enjoyed a few days of quiet life."